Hello, my name is Marika Kunnas, and I am an assistant professor here in the Language and Literacy Education Department in the Faculty of Education on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Halkumulam-speaking Musqueam people. I'm from Takaranto, or Toronto, the traditional territories of the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, the Wendat, and the Anishinaabeg peoples. The Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation hold the treaty for this land, which is Treaty 13. My work focuses on the intersections of French as an additional language education and anti-racism. I'm particularly interested in the experiences of racialized and minoritized French additional language learners, as well as ways to use language and language education as a vehicle for anti-colonialism, or as Amal Medibo says, using language as a decolonial instrument of defiance. I am also very interested in teacher education and how to support teachers to become critical educators. My work is largely framed by critical race theory, racial-linguistics, and critical language and race theory, which all center race as the entry point into inquiry and question how power and inequity manifest in language use and language education. My approach to research is largely qualitative and arts-based. I think that using the arts is one way to make research more accessible to the broader public, which is very important to me. Currently, I teach in the Bachelor of Education, teaching and coordinating the course, Teaching and Learning French at the elementary level. I also teach theories of second language acquisition in our French Masters of Education cohort. Before coming to BC, I was a long-term occasional secondary school French immersion teacher in Toronto, and I taught a wide variety of courses from French to drama to history to even English. My interest in research emerged directly from my experiences teaching in French immersion and being one of the only people of color in my French immersion classes, despite being in one of the most multiracial cities in the world. Curious about how inclusion and exclusion were supported, I investigated different policies, curricula, and promotional documents related to French immersion, and I found that the way that these documents privilege certain people being white, middle-class Anglophones. That reflected the demographics in French immersion programs. But I was still left with some questions, particularly around students' experiences in French immersion. So, in my doctoral studies, I investigated exactly that, how racialized students experience French immersion and how we can improve those experiences. Participants created monologues and counter stories about their experiences, which you can find on our website if you're interested. These two studies gave me a good idea of what was happening in Ontario French immersion programs, and now I'm interested in moving beyond Ontario to investigate similar questions about the experiences of racialized people, including teachers, in French immersion across Canada. I'm particularly interested in understanding how teachers and students enact and experience anti-racist pedagogies. This interest arises not only from personal experience, but also due to the prevalent gap on research about race in French as an additional language. With my research, my goal is to transform French language education and French language educators. For example, my findings from my dissertation pointed to a lack of anti-racist pedagogy in French programs. So, along with other critically minded French educators across Canada, I co-authored a guidebook called An Anti-Racist Framework for Teaching French as a Second or Additional Language. This framework is designed for teacher education programs and for professional learning for teachers, and it will be openly accessible for free online. For me, anti-racism is more than just having diverse representation. It is about leading with love and hope and creating community within and beyond the classroom, having conversations about race and racism, and importantly, finding ways to change racist systems and policies. Anti-racism is fundamentally about racial justice and racial equity. Our book is research-based and supported by anti-racist theories while providing concrete strategies and examples for French teachers to bridge the divide between theory and practice. This emphasis on practicality for current and future teachers is key, as we have found in the past that teacher candidates feel there is a big divide between theory and practice, and they lack support in integrating anti-racist pedagogies. I also found that approaches to integrating intercultural competence, particularly from a critical lens, were missing in my participants' experiences. In another study I was a part of, we found that teachers lacked a critical conceptualization of culture, pointing to a need to support teachers in integrating critical intercultural competence. I'm currently working on 3 projects. One is a SSHRC partnership project with the Canadian Association of Second Language Teachers about critical French educators and developing materials and training for Canadian French teachers who want to develop their own criticality. The second project is a collaborative project investigating Black girls' experiences in French immersion. Finally, I'm working on extending my dissertation project to move beyond Ontario and to include teachers. Through a mixed method study, which includes surveys, interviews, microstories, and monologues, I'll continue to investigate racialized people's experiences in French language education, as well as their needs and the enactment of anti-racist pedagogies. I see my teaching and research as mutually informing one another. At UBC, I look forward to finding ways to support current and future French teachers and to create spaces where racialized students are heard, valued, and supported.